Aviation weather around Alaska.
For Monday morning, we've got a lot of IFR out here over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Marginal VFR for the Alaska Peninsula, some IFR into Bristol Bay. VFR most of the interior, some lower conditions here to the east. Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast. IFR, southeast coast, IFR with some marginal VFR, kind of better conditions out along the outer coastline than farther to the east. And for the afternoon, IFR is gone here over the southeast coast with some VFR down to the south. Marginal VFR up into the Copper River Basin there in the eastern North Gulf Coast. And some scattered areas of marginal VFR on the east side here, but the interior, good VFR. Big improvement up here, Brooks Range in the North Slope. Even the Arctic coast becoming marginal VFR there with VFR just to the south. And a lot of IFR here holds over the Bering Sea, both tomorrow afternoon and into Tuesday, with the area of IFR kind of pushing back in along the coast here during the morning hours there, kind of surrounding the Seward Peninsula and back along the Arctic coast. The interior, good VFR, some scattered marginal VFR here over the southeast interior. Also could be some along the North Gulf Coast. Not too bad for the southeast coast, still a couple areas of IFR possible there. But that breaks out to good VFR with the marginal VFR pulling back to the coastline and out over the Gulf of Alaska. The interior, VFR from the Arctic Ocean now all the way down to Kodiak Island, and some marginal VFR along the west coast with the IFR pulling off the coastline there, except hugging the extreme western Arctic coast there, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne area, maybe Point Ley, and a big swath here across the Bering Sea into the Aleutians. And for passes, Anaktuvik and Adigan, VFR becoming VFR, at least by the afternoon. Could be some lower conditions early on, but big change coming up for both those passes in the Brooks Range. That should last for a couple of days. Otherwise, Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, rainy VFR, windy VFR. And for Isabel, Mentasta area, we'll go VFR to start, and then as clouds build up in the afternoon, possible marginal VFR developing in both passes there. And that same forecast goes for Tanita as well, with the better conditions early on, then kind of building clouds and showers in the afternoon. Portage, IFR, especially on the eastern entrance, again tomorrow, and Chilkoot and White, pretty marginal. And for the icing here, we've got some isolated moderate over the eastern interior down to the eastern North Gulf Coast, subsiding. They're actually becoming icing free here in the west and to the north, icing free for the Panhandle. And then a lot of moisture here streaming northeastward out over the Bering Sea. Considerable moderate rime icing here south of Nunivak Island, or south of St. Lawrence Island, west of Nunivak Island. Could be some lighter icing getting in there, but extending down in toward the central Aleutians. And the jet stream here showing northwest winds around this low over south central Alaska at 33,000 feet at about 80 knots there. And then southwest flow at about 80 knots in across the southern southeast coast. And for 9,000 feet, northwest 40 knots here coming around this upper level low right over Cook Inlet, this elevation. Pretty light up over the interior, and a light westerly flow in across the southeast coast from the Gulf. Stronger winds out here to the west, down along and south of the Aleutians, kind of a broad southwest flow here. 40 knots over the Bering Sea, lighter up to the north, and then the stronger winds just south of the Aleutians. 3,000 feet with that front out here, pretty active front, so we got 60 to 70 knot winds at 3,000 feet in advance of the frontal boundary there, coming into Adak and Atka. West-southwest about 35 over the northern Bering Sea. Light here in the interior from the Arctic coast into the Gulf of Alaska. Light winds across the southeast coast. So going to turbulence, could see some isolated moderate possible here for the western Arctic coast, down across the northwest coast and the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island. Actually down to about St. Matthew Island there. Light to very isolated moderate turbulence there. The more significant area down here over the Aleutians, closer to that storm system and active front. Considerable moderate expected from Atka Island westward to about Kiska.